It's rare that one loss comes down to one player, but in the case of the Texans' divisional round loss against the New England Patriots, C.J. Stroud failed everybody. He failed the franchise, he failed the coaching staff, he failed the players, and he failed the city of Houston.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Battle Red Nation, from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. Got a really good show set up for you guys today. Well, it's essentially real talk. What's next for Houston? The season ended without them reaching the AFC Championship game. The season ended with Houston now being 0-7 in the divisional round of the playoffs. After historic defensive performances, nightly, weekly, game by game, a 10-game win streak, it all just crumbled. And the offense and the quarterback failed them. So what's next moving forward? Also, the city of Houston feels dejected from their quarterback. There is not a fan in Houston right now that feels like, especially if they know ball, that feels like they have their franchise quarterback. And a lot of fans feel like they miss and they're starting to reminisce on number 4. But I'm opening up today's show just looking at C.J. Stroud letting the team down, letting the franchise down. I want to shout out everybody, all my everydays from the Himalayas, for making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen today. And for this season of just being with me. I know the year didn't end how a lot of you guys wanted it to, but I really appreciate you. And also I appreciate you guys for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast in the nation. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving new customers even more ways to get in on the action. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's get started with the show. Stroud, 20 of 47, 212 yards, 3.9 yards per pass, 4 interceptions, all in the first half. A quarterback rating of 28, a QBR 21, and down one score going into the fourth quarter. The offensive production garnered 30 yards in 14 plays and no points. This is not an overreaction. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything on this show today. Stroud failed the franchise and the players around him. Sunday's performance was reminiscent of Brian Hoyer's playoff performance against Kansas City in 2016. Brian Hoyer was never viewed as a franchise quarterback. And after Sunday's performance, there's legit reason to believe C.J. Stroud may not be Houston's long-term 10-year franchise quarterback. And if he is, it may not be for Houston. And I, for one, think Houston is in a tough spot. This was the window for Houston to achieve what they searched for since 2002, excuse me. And yes, the offensive line had a tough outing. They didn't run the ball well. They didn't block well. They didn't run block well. Yes, there was no Nico Collins, and Dalton Schultz went down in the first. But to that point, I say, this was the game where you want the quarterback to lift the team like he's been lifted all season long, like when Tim Settle went down and Mo Evans went down. And even when Stroud himself went down and the team turned to Davis Mills, who, by the way, in both playoff games, fans were calling for the switch by halftime. When Mills had to go 3-0, everybody this season has done a immaculate job lifting C.J. Stroud, and at times lifting the offense all together. This team has carried and lifted them. And in the biggest game of the season, not only did Stroud not return the favor, but he consistently did everything in his power to give the game away to the New England Patriots. And that's what he did. Sunday's loss really, in my opinion, was a slow-rolling train that finally hit its stop with a trip to the AFC Championship game in reach. And this defense, this felt like the year Houston would secure their first appearance in franchise history, but C.J. Stroud in the offense happened. The formula for Houston during this win streak, and when they have experienced offensive success, has been stout defense. The swarm mentality, that's what it's referred to. Take care of the ball. Be great on special teams. Be a great special team unit. The defense sacked Drake May 5 times and forced him to turn the ball over 3 times. Kaimi Fairbairn made 3 of his field goals, including another 50-yarder. And Jalen Noel was a solid punt return. Nothing spectacular, but he was solid. Took care of the ball. C.J. Stroud and the offense did not take care of the ball. They did not hold up to their end of the bargain. And the chain that was linked together for 10 consecutive wins finally broke. And the weakest link happens to be the man who set the world on fire in his rookie year, but he's unassisted 2 years later, and everybody feels and see the regression. C.J. Stroud. After the game, Stroud said he feels bad. He feels like he let the team down. The wording and the use of the word "feel" is something maybe should pay attention to, but this is a moment Stroud can absolutely bounce back from. But here's the conflict. Feels like the patience might have wear thin a little bit, even though D'Amico has exhibited the willingness to encourage and be there for Stroud. The reality is evaluating his future is extremely difficult. And honestly, I feel for D'Amico Ryans. He had a coach of the year type of season, rallied the troops, challenged the defense to win games, and save the day. And they did. I go back to the conversation that I had with Aziz outside here in the locker room. I said, I got 3 questions for you. He was ready to go, but he gave me 3 questions to ask him. And of those questions, I asked him about D'Amico Ryans and the defense going into this game. He said, man, he challenged us. He said, everybody has called y'all this great unit. But on 2 occasions, we've been the last unit on the field before the opposing offense scored points to win the game. Tampa Bay and Denver. And for 10 consecutive games, that was the case. D'Amico Ryans went to war with his guys, and he won 10 straight games. He put his best foot forward. I think he did an immaculate job of understanding that I got to be there for Kaylee, Cole, and maybe he can trust Cole a little bit more. But I got to be there for Kaylee. I got to be there for my quarterback. I got to be there for all these guys. This is what he take on as a head coach. But he put his best foot forward. He rallied the troops, and he was let down by his franchise quarterback. The Texans have a lot to consider moving forward. But is the fan base done with C.J. Stroud? Like, that's what we need to talk about now. Houston is no longer divided, in my opinion. Majority of H-Town called for Davis Mills in their 2 playoff games at halftime, ladies and gentlemen. Are fans done with C.J. Stroud? Do you feel like, you know what? We can't win with him. Can't do it. He's not the guy for us to get over the hump. When you got a backup getting called in both games, that's a problem. And more than that, fans feel like CJ, stick around. You don't want to miss this episode or this next segment, Locked On Texans Football. I'm sure a lot of you guys feel like you could have did a better job than Jay Stroud did Sunday afternoon playing quarterback. And I'm going to assure you guys you're wrong, number one. But if you still want to live out that dream, there's a mobile game just for you. Ultimate QB Football Legend is the game you need to download right now. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number 1 drafted quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness and to help turn around a failing franchise and turn them into a dynasty. This is the number 1 QB career mode game on mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. Sign contracts, train, upgrade yourself, build chemistry, evolve your teammates, give input to your GM on roster moves, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a QB career, from rookie nerves to playoff dramas. Every choice shapes your journey. Yeah, you end up being Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, or Sam Darnold. It's up to you. Ultimate QB is totally free to play and has no ads. Works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to sneak in the game on the go. Can't beat it. So just head to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in the App Store. And also, we got something special for you guys. Use Locked On, promo code Locked On, all caps, in Game Store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB football legend, QB1 is your legacy. And also, I understand the Houston Texans ain't playing football no more. Some of you guys have nothing to do. Not me, though. But the big game is almost here. We're a couple of weeks away from the Super Bowl, and there's no better way to stay locked in into every moment than with Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app, where it always feels good to be right. With football season coming down to its final stretch, now is the perfect time to close it out strong. Prize Picks makes watching the game even more exciting by letting you build simple lineups around player projections. No draft, no waiting, just football action all the way through the playoffs. It makes watching games more engaging, especially during football playoff season, where it's been amazing. The NFL playoffs this year has been phenomenal, and the big game. A great way to keep playing fantasy football even after season-long leagues are finished. So download the Prospect app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 off, $50 in lineups, after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prospects, it's good to be right. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners, viewers. Something I also want to discuss more throughout the week. D'Amico Ryans was asked about Joe Mixon's future with the team, and he said he doesn't know. This season was a lot of things, right? I think we can say this is the best season in franchise history. And obviously, when you look at what you can compare it to, you're going to look at all of the other teams that failed to reach the AFC championship game. But how this season ended, I think you look at the defense, you look at Will, Daniil, 3 All-Pros, 3 All-Pro players, all on the defensive side of the ball. You know, Aziz makes a Pro Bowl. Nico Collins makes a Pro Bowl. I think we know coming away from this season that the real franchise player that represents the Texans and everything that they stand for, above all, is Will Anderson Jr. We found that out. But it does feel like a wasted season. This season will only be remembered locally. And after 2 or 3 years from now, locally, the talking point will be, if we would have had any other quarterback, we would have made that championship game. Y'all know it's true. Y'all know it's true. Y'all go to work. Y'all go to the water cooler. Y'all talk with your friends and fans. Some of you guys are in those Facebook fan group chats. Y'all have seen it. Y'all have seen it. Locally, the fan base, they're broken, they're disappointed, they're angered. You got people that don't want to answer the phone calls. Like if the Texans would have won, Texas fans would have called everybody in their phone book. But now, the fan base, and I don't think it's that they lost. I think it's how they lost. They're not answering the phone. They don't want to return messages. But the sentiments are shared among each other the same. There's no fan in the city is shocked that the QB performed the way that he did. Nor do they trust the QB right now. Listen, I've been out and about in the city of Houston the past couple of months. And as a real Houstonian, someone who loves Houston, who embodies Houston, I talk to real people on the daily, at work, at the gas station, going to a local neighborhood restaurant. I talk to people, and people will stop me. We'll have conversations. And then what do you do? Oh, I cover the Texans. Oh, really? And we'll get to having very good conversations. Or people may stop me and say, I know you from Locked On Texans. In the past couple of months, I've heard the same thing consistently. They believe in everybody but the QB. And recently, I frequently started to hear more of, man, I wish Deshaun Watson was still here. I miss him. I've started to hear that, guys. Deshaun is the last QB the city of Houston really stood behind. With CJ, Houston feels like the fans feel as though he's never embraced the city as his own. We remember the whole hat debacle and some of the other things he said in interviews. And I also think some of the sideline gestures, antics, body language, or lack thereof, what some people may classify as heralded leadership. Some of those things that CJ Stroud had displayed or has not displayed bothers a lot of fans in Houston. Don't really bother me too much, right? But it has bothered many of the organic fans from Houston. And when I say organic fans, I don't mean those from Oregon. I don't mean those from Arkansas, Oklahoma. Or I don't mean those that are fans of the team from California because they're supporting, or Ohio State fans follow their players and now they support the Houston Texans. I mean real homegrown fans from the city of Houston. It bothers a lot of those fans how CJ Stroud has conducted himself. And I remember when the city of Houston had Deshaun Watson. And I remember the support from Houston. And I remember how Watson engulfed himself as a representative of Houston and its culture. Many feel like Stroud hasn't embraced the city of Houston's culture. Even though Stroud has done a lot in terms of charity events in and around the city of Houston. He's done a lot. I think one donated over $3 million or something like that. Like, very commendable. But this is a football city and state. We feel football differently. We look for our quarterbacks out here to, perform differently and carry themselves differently. So, in my opinion, preference is preference. I have nothing to say about preference. But after Sunday's embarrassing loss, it feels like that was the last straw for Texas fans. Keep it real. Now, Stroud has said this is not the last of Stroud. I'm going to go on record and say, between now and that first preseason game, where Houston needs to take preseason much more seriously, by the way, he got time to revamp and do some things. And I think Stroud needs to do some soul searching on what he needs to do moving forward. Also, the Houston Texans, it's time to trim that. We'll talk about that to close out what's next. He is still a talented QB, young, still has the tools to be a successful quarterback. But I ain't lying, it feels like he owes Houston, the city of Houston. And it ain't about numbers. In some ways it is. I mean, he has yet to reach 30 total TDs in his career. He has yet to throw for, I think since his rookie year, he hasn't touched 4,000 yards. Numbers matter, especially when we get to contract time, right? Here's the thing. When you have a city saying Houston needs to pick up his 50-year option, not just in the media, not just on podcasts, but when you have everyday fans that are in places like Adore or in places at some of these sports bars, when you got fans like that saying we shouldn't pay him yet, pick the 50-year option and see what happens next year, that's a problem. And it ain't about the numbers, all about the numbers, a little bit about the numbers, but I also think it's more about the sideline. Remember that lollygagging conversation we had? The end result of this season was set in the first week of training camp. And the moment we heard the franchise quarterback call a week of practice lollygagging after losing the game, after having a first-year play caller, after having all of the things that were going on at the time with the offensive line and not having the weapons that he needed, when we heard him say it was lollygagging going on at practice offensively, that was the moment. That was the moment. Stroud has so much to focus on outside of the numbers. And I think if he improves on some of these things from a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint, that will lead to him being better inside the numbers. And I don't know how many of you feel about this, but maybe Stroud needs to throw on that guardian cap. But the Texans fans do feel dejected from their quarterback, mainly because it feels like, at least to them, he's dejected from the city of Houston and the culture. Some of you guys that may be listening and watching this, shout out to you guys. You may not actually be from Houston, so your opinion may be a little different. I know for you guys, it's all about what he does for the Texans. And again, this goes hand in hand. After that embarrassing loss, what he did for the Texans and how bad he played, on top of how many people from the city of Houston feel, it does feel like there is a half a year of redeemability there for Stroud. And if not, the team internally got soul searching to do about what their future looks like. Now, moving forward, what do the Texans need to do next? That is how I'm going to close out today's show. But first, Texas fans, ladies and gentlemen out there, I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in play mode every game day during the NFL playoffs. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action, because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside of the app. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what you want to apply. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. So when you make your picks, make your picks. Then apply your profit boost pack to go after an even bigger payout while playoffs are still rolling. Visit FanDuel, official sports partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Closing out today's episode, had an opportunity to hear from D'Amico Ryans Monday afternoon, and he was asked a little bit about the future. This is what he had to say.
Yeah, with the coaching staff, with our players, you guys asking about contracts, coaches, play. Like, I'm evaluating everything as we go throughout the week.
Absolutely right. D'Amico said that last year, and he made a major change. They moved on from Bobby Slowick. They got to move on for some guys, right? I think they got him some bad that's going on right in the building. My statements moving forward is no disrespect to the person, the coach, or the player. I'm only viewing these. My statements are what the Texans need to do to be better. This ain't personal. Y'all know me. Number one, they got to move on from Gerard Johnson. He's CJ's guy. And I think he's played a major role in some capacity in the regression of CJ Stroud. So this is what it felt like. It's felt like the J. Cole verse that just dropped a couple days ago. Like, it felt like year one should have been year three, and year three looks like what it would have probably looked like in year one, right? Everything is a reverse, essentially. And Troy Aikman pointed it out on the broadcast. He feels like he's trying to get back to that, but he's regressed, and something needs to change. I think the first thing that we got to look at is moving on from his quarterback coach. And it also feels like CJ Stroud has lacked growth in areas such as IQ, and I also think just overall an outside guy gives me an opportunity to bring in someone who can challenge Stroud, and also a crucial, even more critical year 4, can challenge Stroud a year before the 2027 draft class. That's important to me. Ben McDaniels, it's time for him to go. And he'll land on his feet. All of these guys will land on their feet somehow, some way. I think McDaniels has ties to the head tree somewhere, somehow, or maybe he can go up to New England and get a job with his brother. But he's also a passing game coordinator. And you look at just none of these guys can consistently be a factor out. Collins was a factor. Jaden Higgins was a factor, right? Those two guys, 6'4", 4'5", 4'4" speed, like those type of guys are going to be factors. But didn't get a lot from Xavier Hutchinson. Didn't get a lot from Jalen Noel. And sometimes, like, look, the route, bad route was the wrong route, communication off, whatever it is. I think you got to look at the wide receiver coach, passing game coordinator as an issue. Now, great year. You got CJ Stroud overthrows, underthrows, side throws, behind the back throws, whatever throw that didn't deliver the ball accurately enough. I think we could have saw better numbers from the rookie Jaden Higgins overall, but I just think it's time for Ben McDaniels to go. I also think Houston needs to operate as if Tank Dell and Joe Mixon ain't coming back. And I don't think Joe Mixon should come back. I think he should look at the situation and say, man, we really appreciate you for that 1 year. We had high hopes for you this second year, but didn't get an opportunity to play. The media games I thought was pointless. I knew he wasn't coming back. And when we asked the Houston Texans about, what's going on, then you got Joe Mixon tweeting about how do you know this stuff and who said I wasn't coming back. Just move on from it. Move on from it. And honestly, guys, I'd be shocked if Houston did that. This is a group led by Nick Caserio that is pretty loyal to their guys. They to operate and improve as if neither one of those guys are coming back. Retool and replace. When I say things like retool, I think Houston needs to go out there and find another weapon offensively at the wide receiver spot. Right, this is now Another year, Nico has gotten hurt. And this is no knock to Nico. I mean, Nico has been the most consistent offensive playmaker for Houston. And I think Jaden Higgins is Nico Collins' contingency plan for the franchise. But retooling the play go hand in hand, because if you bring in another elite, near elite wide receiver, you're going to have to replace guys. And I think for Houston, the guys that need to move on from, it never made any sense to me to keep Justin Watson here. Not even from a special team standpoint. Look at the amount of healthy scratches or DNPs he's had. Also, I think it may be time to just replace and move on from Xavier Hutchinson. The interior offensive line, left guard, and center. They got to figure that out, right? You cannot have an offense that wants to establish itself by being dominant on the ground, and then they have challenges that they set themselves of trying to be dominant on the ground, but they're not able to because of the run game is bad, because offensive line ain't consistently blocking worth the damn consistently. They've had great moments this year, but when they needed it the most against the Patriots, 12 rushing yards on 8 carries in the first half. Priority. Be better. Also, what the future for Titus Howard, what does that look like moving forward? Blake Fisher, I thought, did a good job. What I like about Blake Fisher, what he's shown to me this year in his moments, was he can run block. And that tackle, I mean, I think he run blocked better than Titus Howard did this year. So I think Houston needs to figure that out. They got to get Dalton Schultz a real running mate, guys. And they signed Brevin Jordan to a 1-year extension. That's just a courtesy to see if he can come back and be anything next year. But he's coming out back-to-back injuries. I don't think that they should put all their eggs, half their eggs, or third their eggs in that basket. No disrespect to Brevin Jordan. I think he's a talent. We just ain't seen it in 2 years. Case Stover, that's a CJ guy, Ohio State guy. He hadn't produced anything. He's also a former 4th-round pick. It would be nothing for Houston to move on from him. You know, is there a vet out there? Do you want to look at Isaiah Likely? Do you want to look at maybe, seeing if David Njoku can come out here? I think this is a good tight end free agent class, and I also think there's some tight ends in this draft class that Houston can benefit from. One of which, 6'7", dang demigod out here in Houston, and I don't think should leave Houston. I'm talking about the tight end from the Cougars. So they got to figure that situation out. They got to get Dalton Schultz a real running mate and a contingency plan for him, because he's getting older. And I think that when we looked at how the game ended, the first quarter, so leaves, he's been battling injuries and being tough and strong all year. I just don't think his body can withhold it anymore. And that's just not a now problem. That problem will present itself in the future. So they got to figure that out. You got to resign Tommy T. That got to be one of the top priorities. Right? We're going to talk about Will Neal, Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter, Caleb Budlock, Azeez Al-Shaair, and Henry T. We're going to talk about them guys, right? But Tommy T and Sheldon Rankins each dominated when Houston needed for them to dominate. You talk about guys playing above and beyond. It's those guys. Now, Sheldon Rankin a little bit longer in the tooth, a little bit older. Tommy T is – see, my man Tommy T is a former 4th-round pick, 26. He turns 27 in September, still fairly young, and don't got a lot of miles on him. Right? He ain't played a lot of football. Practice squad. Like, he is healthy and fresh and somewhat similar to what Raw Wright told me about Tim Settle when I talked to him in the preseason. He said, yeah, he's been in the league for a long time, but he ain't got a lot of miles on him. He's still got a younger man's body. That's Tommy T. They got to bring him back. He's a stud. And I also think maybe you look to pair him with a younger stud in the draft. Thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'm going to continue to cover your team every day with logic. I'm only going to talk to y'all logical. And I think especially now that the season is officially over, logic is the only thing that matters. So make sure you stick with me throughout the week. Follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12, and also subscribe, like, and comment to the YouTube page on YouTube. Drop a comment. Let me know how you feel for real. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texan fans across the nation, peace.